The alarm rang through the deep space station like an angry bird. Commander Jake Morrison rolled out of his bunk and grabbed his uniform. 3 months of quiet space duty had made him soft, but today felt different. The red lights were flashing in the hallway and crew members were running toward the command center. "What's the situation?" Jake asked as he stepped into the busy control room. Captain Ryan Foster looked up from his screen with wide eyes. "Sir, we're getting signals from the edge of the solar system. These aren't natural. Something is trying to talk to us." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. After 50 years of listening to space, humanity had finally heard something talk back. The radio operator, a young woman named Lisa Carter, was bent over her equipment with sweat on her forehead. "The pattern repeats every 12 minutes, Lisa said without looking up. "It's mathematical. Prime numbers, then squares, then something more complex. This is definitely intelligent." Jake walked to the main screen where green lines danced up and down like ocean waves. Each spike represented a signal from somewhere beyond Neptune. The source was moving, which meant it had to be a ship of some kind. "How long have we been receiving this?" Jake asked. "Started about an hour ago," Ryan answered. "But sir, there's more. We've been sending basic math back to them and they're responding. They understand what we're doing." The room went quiet except for the soft hum of computers. Everyone was thinking the same thing. This was it. First contact with alien life. The moment that would change everything for the human race. Lisa suddenly sat up straight. "Commander, they're sending something new. It looks like..." "Pictures?" The main screen changed to show a series of dots and lines. At first it looked random, but then Jake could see it was a drawing. A simple stick figure with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a round head. Below it was another figure, but this one was different. It had 6 arms and a long curved body. "That's them," Ryan whispered. "They're showing us what they look like." Jake felt a chill run down his back. The alien drawing was careful and precise. It showed details like joints and what might have been eyes. These beings were smart enough to think about how to communicate with a completely different species. "Send back our own drawing," Jake ordered. "Show them a human figure, but make it friendly. Add a hand raised up like we're waving hello." Lisa's fingers flew over her keyboard. Within minutes, their response was shooting across space toward the alien ship. The waiting felt like hours, but it was only 20 minutes before new signals came back. This time, the aliens sent a more complex picture. It showed their ship as a long, curved tube with smaller tubes attached to the sides. Next to it, they had drawn a question mark, and then a simple square, asking what human ships looked like. "They want to know about our technology," Ryan said. "Should we show them the space station?" Jake thought carefully. These aliens seemed peaceful so far, but showing military capabilities might send the wrong message. Send them a picture of a basic transport ship. Nothing that looks like a weapon. Over the next few hours, the communication got more complex. The aliens, who started calling themselves the Veltar, seemed eager to learn about human culture. They sent pictures of what looked like cities with tall, flowing buildings. Humans responded with images of Earth's cities, careful to choose peaceful scenes. Dr. Lisa Carter, who had been promoted to head of the new alien communication team, was working on understanding their language. The Veltar had started sending actual words along with their pictures. Their language sounded musical, with lots of flowing sounds that were hard for humans to make. "Commander," Lisa said during a break, "they're asking for what they call time pictures. I think they want to see our history." Jake looked at the translation on his screen. The aliens were using simple concepts, asking to see how humans had grown and changed over time. It seemed innocent enough. "What kind of history do you think they want?" Ryan asked. "Probably our development," Jake answered. "How we went from cave dwellers to space travelers. Show them art, music, science discoveries, the good stuff." Lisa nodded and started putting together a collection of human achievements. Pictures of ancient art, recordings of classical music, images of the first moon landing, and videos of modern cities. It was meant to show humanity at its best, but the Veltar wanted more. Their next message was longer and more detailed. When Lisa translated it, the request was specific. They wanted to see how humans had solved conflicts throughout history. They seemed to think this would help them understand human society better. They want to know about our wars? Ryan asked, reading over Lisa's shoulder. Not exactly wars, Lisa replied, studying the alien words carefully. They're asking about conflict resolution methods. I think they want to understand how we handle disagreements and problems. Jake thought about it. Every species probably had some form of conflict. Maybe the Veltar wanted to compare notes on diplomacy and peacekeeping. It would make sense for them to ask about it. Put together a historical package, Jake decided. Show them how we've grown from simple fighting to modern peacekeeping. Include some battle footage, but focus on how we've learned to be better. Show them the United Nations, peace treaties, that kind of thing. The team worked for 2 days, putting together what they thought was a balanced view of human conflict resolution. They included footage from ancient battles to show where humanity started, then moved through major wars in history, always trying to focus on how each conflict had taught humans to be more civilized. They added videos of modern military training, showing the discipline and control that soldiers learned. They included footage of peacekeeping missions, disaster relief operations, and international cooperation. The goal was to show that while humans had a history of fighting, they had grown beyond simple violence. The package included tactical videos showing how human military forces operated, but always with explanations about rules of war, protection of civilians, and humanitarian efforts. They wanted the Veltar to see that human warfare was actually a complex system with moral rules and limitations. When they finished, the collection was massive. Thousands of hours of video, millions of images, and detailed explanations of human military history from stone axes to space-based defense systems. It showed the complete evolution of human conflict resolution, from tribal raids to modern international law. This should give them a complete picture of how we handle problems, Lisa said as she prepared the final transmission. Jake looked at the package one more time. It showed humanity's growth from primitive fighters to sophisticated peacekeepers. Any intelligent species should be able to see the positive development over time. Send it, he ordered. The transmission took 6 hours to complete. When it was finished, they sent a simple message explaining that this was how humans had learned to resolve conflicts and maintain peace. They were proud of how far their species had come. Then they waited for the Veltar response, expecting praise for human development and maybe some information about how alien civilizations handled similar problems. They had no idea that they had just sent the most terrifying document in galactic history. 3 days passed without a single word from the Veltar. Commander Jake Morrison stood in the communication room, staring at the silent screens. The cheerful beeping of incoming alien messages had stopped completely, leaving only the quiet hum of human equipment. Still nothing? Jake asked Dr. Lisa Carter, who had dark circles under her eyes from staying awake too long. Nothing at all, Lisa replied, adjusting her headset for the 100th time. I've tried every frequency we used before. I've sent the same greeting messages that worked the first day. It's like they just disappeared. Captain Ryan Foster walked into the room carrying a cup of coffee and looking worried. The deep space scanners aren't picking up their ship anymore either. Whatever they were using to stay hidden before, they're using it again. Jake felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. The first contact with alien life had gone so well for those first few days. The Veltar had seemed friendly, curious, and eager to learn about human culture. Then humans had sent their historical package about conflict resolution, and everything went quiet. Maybe they're just taking time to study all the information we sent, Ryan suggested. But his voice didn't sound convinced. It was a lot of material, thousands of hours of video and millions of images. Or maybe they didn't like what they saw, Lisa said quietly. Before Jake could respond, his communication device beeped with an urgent message from Earth. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Patterson at NORAD needed to speak with him immediately. Jake accepted the call and Amy's worried face appeared on his screen. Commander Morrison, we have a problem, Amy said without any greeting. Our long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. We're talking about technology that makes our best ships look like wooden boats. Jake felt his heart start beating faster. How many ships? That's the scary part. We count over 300 separate energy sources. They're spread out in what looks like a defensive formation around the entire solar system. The room went silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. The friendly aliens they had been talking to had brought an army. "Are they moving toward Earth?" Jake asked. "No," Amy replied. "They're staying right at the edge of our system, but Commander, there's something else. We ran the energy patterns through our computers, and they match the signatures from the original Veltar ship. These aren't different aliens, this is the same species, but now there are hundreds of them." Jake closed the communication link and looked around the room at his team. Ryan was staring at his hands, and Lisa was nervously checking her equipment, again and again. "We need to contact Earth Command," Jake said. "This has become bigger than just first contact." Within an hour, Jake was on a secure call with Admiral Steve Collins and President Helen Baker. The president looked tired, like she had been awake all night dealing with this crisis. "Commander Morrison," the president said, "I need you to tell me exactly what happened during your communications with these aliens." Jake explained everything from the beginning: the mathematical signals, the picture exchanges, the friendly cultural sharing, and finally the request for human conflict resolution methods. "What exactly did you send them?" Admiral Collins asked. "A complete historical package showing how humans handle conflicts," Jake answered. "We started with ancient warfare and showed how we developed into modern peacekeeping forces. We included footage of battles, but we focused on showing human growth and civilization." President Baker and Admiral Collins looked at each other with expressions that made Jake's stomach drop. "Commander," the president said slowly, "I want you to think very carefully about this next question. How much detail did you include about human military capabilities?" Jake felt sweat forming on his forehead. "We showed tactical operations, training methods, weapon systems development over history, but we always explained it in the context of human development and moral growth." Admiral Collins rubbed his temples. "Commander, from a military perspective, what you sent them was a complete guide to human warfare capabilities spanning thousands of years. You showed them every major conflict, every tactical innovation, and every weapon system we've ever developed." "But we explained the context," Jake protested. "We showed them how we use these capabilities for peacekeeping and protection." "To us, that's what it looked like," the president said gently. "But to an alien species that might never have experienced warfare, what do you think it looked like?" The horrible truth was starting to dawn on Jake. He had sent what he thought was a cultural exchange showing human growth and civilization. But to aliens who had never seen real warfare, it might have looked like something completely different. Before anyone could respond, Lisa Carter suddenly stood up from her communication station. "Commander, I'm getting a signal. It's from the Veltar." Everyone crowded around Lisa's station as she worked to decode the incoming message. The signal was much shorter than their previous communications, and when the translation appeared on screen, the room went completely silent. The message was simple and terrifying. "We have reviewed your species' historical documentation. The collective has voted. Quarantine protocols have been initiated. Do not attempt to leave your system." Jake read the message 3 times, hoping he had misunderstood something. "Quarantine protocols?" Lisa's hands were shaking as she typed a response asking for clarification. The answer came back within minutes, and it was even worse than the first message. "Your species demonstrates advanced predator capabilities beyond acceptable risk levels. The Galactic Collective has determined that humanity poses an existential threat to galactic civilization. Your system will remain isolated until a permanent solution can be found." President Baker's face had gone completely white. "They think we're too dangerous to be allowed into the galaxy." Admiral Collins was already pulling up tactical displays. 300 ships in defensive positions around our entire solar system. "They're not here to talk anymore. They're here to make sure we never leave." Jake felt like the floor was falling out from under him. The friendly first contact that was supposed to bring humanity into a larger galactic community had turned into a prison sentence. And it was all because he had tried to show the aliens how humans had learned to be civilized. "What kind of permanent solution do you think they're talking about?" Ryan asked quietly. Nobody answered, but everyone was thinking the same thing. Species that were considered too dangerous usually didn't get to remain a problem for very long. Lisa tried sending more messages explaining human intentions and peaceful goals, but the responses were cold and final. The Veltar would not be convinced that humans were anything other than the most dangerous predators they had ever encountered. Jake looked out the window at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, hundreds of alien ships were making sure that humanity would never reach any of them. The species that had dreamed of exploring the galaxy was now trapped in their own solar system by the very history they had been proud to share. The worst part was knowing that it was all a terrible misunderstanding and there seemed to be no way to fix it. 2 weeks had passed since the quarantine began, and Ambassador Kevin Ross was getting desperate. He had been trying every diplomatic trick he knew to get the Veltar to listen to reason, but their responses were always the same. Humanity was too dangerous. The decision was final. Kevin sat in his office on the space station, reading through another failed attempt at communication. Dr. Lisa Carter was working day and night to find better ways to translate human intentions, but the aliens seemed convinced that humans were lying about their peaceful nature. "Ambassador," Lisa said as she walked into his office carrying a thick folder, "I think I'm starting to understand why they're so afraid of us." Kevin looked up hopefully. Any new information might help them find a way out of this mess. "I've been studying their language more carefully," Lisa continued, sitting down across from his desk. "The Veltar don't have words for many things that are common to us. They have no word that means genocide or total war or scorched earth. Their language suggests a species that has never experienced real warfare." "What do you mean by real warfare?" Kevin asked. Lisa opened her folder and showed him pages of alien text with translations. "Look at this. When they talk about conflict, they use words that translate to resource negotiation or territory discussion. The strongest word they have for disagreement translates to something like firm conversation." Kevin studied the papers trying to understand what this meant for humanity's situation. "Ambassador, imagine you've never seen violence worse than two people arguing over who gets the last piece of food. Then someone shows you footage of World War II. What would you think?" The horrible truth was starting to become clear to Kevin. The humans had sent footage of tanks, bombs, nuclear weapons, and battlefield tactics to a species that had probably never seen anything more violent than a shouting match. "But surely, they understand that we've grown beyond simple warfare," Kevin protested. "We showed them modern peacekeeping, the United Nations international law." Lisa shook her head sadly. "That might have made it worse. From their perspective, we didn't just show them that humans could fight. We showed them that humans had turned fighting into a science. We demonstrated thousands of years of innovation in killing, with rules and organization and constant improvement." Before Kevin could respond, his communication device buzzed with an incoming message. It was from Captain Ryan Foster at the Deep Space Monitoring Station. "Ambassador, we've managed to intercept some Veltar communications. You need to hear this." Kevin accepted the transmission, and Ryan's worried face appeared on his screen. "We picked up radio chatter between their ships," Ryan explained. "Dr. Carter's translation software has been working on it. Ambassador, they're not just afraid of us. They're terrified." "What are they saying?" Kevin asked. Ryan looked down at his notes. "They're calling us the apex killers and death bringers. But here's the really disturbing part. Several of their worlds have started evacuating their populations to more distant star systems." Kevin felt his blood turn cold. "They're running away from us. It gets worse," Ryan continued. "They're debating whether quarantine is enough. Some of their leaders think humanity is too dangerous to be allowed to exist at all." The communication ended, leaving Kevin alone with Lisa in his office. The weight of humanity's situation was starting to sink in. They weren't just trapped in their solar system. They were facing a galactic civilization that saw them as monsters. "We need to find a way to communicate with one of their representatives directly," Kevin decided. Face-to-face communication might help them see that we're not the killers they think we are. It took 3 days of constant signaling before the Veltar agreed to a direct conversation. The alien who finally responded identified herself as Zephyra, a representative of the Collective Council. When Zephara's image appeared on the main screen, Kevin was surprised by how delicate she looked. The alien was tall and thin, with 6 graceful arms and large, gentle eyes. Her skin was a soft blue color, and she moved with fluid motions that seemed more like dancing than walking. "Human representative," Zephara said in carefully pronounced English. "Why do you continue to contact us? The Collective's decision is final." Kevin took a deep breath. This might be humanity's only chance to explain themselves. "Zephara, I believe. There has been a terrible misunderstanding. The historical information we sent was meant to show how humans have learned to live in peace. We are not the monsters you think we are." Zephara's large eyes blinked slowly. "You showed us recordings of your species destroying entire cities. You demonstrated weapons that can eliminate all life on a planet. You provided detailed instructions for efficient killing methods spanning thousands of years. But we also showed you how we've learned to control those capabilities," Kevin protested. "We have laws of war, peacekeeping forces, international cooperation." "Yes," Zephara replied, and her voice carried a tone that chilled Kevin to the bone. "You showed us that your species has organized and regulated your killing methods. This does not make you less dangerous. It makes you terrifyingly efficient." Lisa leaned forward to speak. "Zephara, what does your species do when you have disagreements?" The alien looked confused by the question. "We discuss the issue until we reach a solution that benefits everyone involved. Sometimes this takes many cycles, but eventually we find agreement." "What if someone refuses to cooperate?" Kevin asked. Zephara seemed genuinely puzzled. "Why would someone refuse a solution that benefits everyone? If a proposal does not work for all parties, we continue discussing until we find one that does." Kevin and Lisa looked at each other. They were talking to a species that had apparently never encountered the concept of someone who couldn't be reasoned with. "Zephara," Lisa said gently, "what would your people do if another species tried to destroy one of your worlds?" The alien was quiet for a long moment. "We would attempt to communicate with them to understand their needs. We would offer to share resources or territory to resolve the conflict peacefully." "And if they refused? If they attacked anyway?" Zephara's expression showed something that might have been confusion or fear. We would ask the Collective for help in finding a solution. Violence is not. We do not have methods for." The terrible truth was finally clear to Kevin. Humanity wasn't just talking to a peaceful species. They were talking to a collection of species that had apparently never developed any capacity for violence at all. In a galaxy full of cooperative civilizations, humans looked like the ultimate nightmare. "Zephara," Kevin said carefully, "are there any dangerous species in the galaxy? Any threats that the Collective has had to deal with?" The alien's response sent chills down Kevin's spine. "There are regions of space we call the dead zones, systems where all communication has stopped. We believe some great disaster has befallen those worlds, but we do not know what. The Collective sends aid missions, but they never return." Kevin felt a new fear growing in his mind. "How long has this been happening?" "For many cycles. Entire civilizations have gone silent. The dead regions grow larger each year." As the communication ended, Kevin sat in silence with Lisa. Humanity was trapped by aliens who saw them as monsters, but somewhere in the galaxy, something was systematically destroying entire civilizations, and the peaceful Collective had no idea how to fight it. Maybe, Kevin thought with growing dread, the galaxy needed monsters more than it realized. President Helen Baker stood in the Situation Room surrounded by her top military advisors and scientists. The decision she had to make would either save humanity or start the first interstellar war in human history. The weight of 8 billion lives pressed down on her shoulders. "Madam President," Admiral Steve Collins said, pointing to the tactical display, "our scouts report that the Veltar fleet is getting bigger. They now have over 500 ships positioned around our solar system. Whatever permanent solution they're planning, it's coming soon." General Patricia Wood stepped forward with a grim expression. "Our analysis suggests 3 possible outcomes. First, they keep us quarantined forever. Second, they try to break through their blockade by force. Third, they find a way to prove we're not the threat they think we are. Dr. Lisa Carter, who had been promoted to head of alien relations, raised her hand. Madam President, I have a fourth option. What if we stop trying to prove we're not dangerous and instead prove that our danger can be useful? Everyone in the room turned to look at her. President Baker raised an eyebrow. Explain. The Veltar told us about the dead zones, Lisa continued. Entire star systems going silent, aid missions disappearing, civilizations being destroyed by something unknown. The collective has no way to fight whatever is doing this because they've never developed any capacity for warfare. Commander Jake Morrison, who had been quietly studying the reports, suddenly looked up. Dr. Carter is right. We've been approaching this all wrong. We keep trying to convince them we're peaceful. But maybe we should be asking why a galaxy full of peaceful species needs protection. Before anyone could respond, Lieutenant Colonel Amy Patterson rushed into the room carrying a data tablet. Madam President, you need to see this immediately. Our deep space sensors have detected something massive moving in the nearest dead zone. Amy connected her tablet to the main display, and the room filled with a three-dimensional map of local space. A red dot was moving slowly but steadily toward the area where the Veltar Collective had their main worlds. The object is enormous, Amy explained. Our computers estimate it's at least 50 times larger than the biggest Veltar ship. The energy readings are unlike anything we've ever seen. Whatever destroyed those civilizations in the dead zones, it's heading straight for the Collective. President Baker stared at the display. How long until it reaches Veltar space? At current speed, maybe 6 months, Amy replied. The room went silent as everyone realized what this meant. The galaxy's peaceful civilizations were about to face something that had already destroyed dozens of worlds, and they had no way to fight it. Get me a direct line to Zephyra, President Baker ordered. It's time to make them an offer they can't refuse. It took several hours to establish communication with the Veltar representative. When Zephyra's image finally appeared on the screen, she looked even more worried than during their previous conversations. Human leader, Zephyra said, the Collective Council is preparing to vote on final measures regarding your species. Why do you contact us now? President Baker looked directly into the alien's large eyes. Because we know about the thing moving toward your worlds from the dead zone. Zephyra's expression changed from worry to fear. You have knowledge of the destroyers? We have sensors that can track them, President Baker replied. And we have something else you need. We have the ability to fight them. The Collective does not engage in violence, Zephyra said firmly. We will attempt to communicate with these beings, as we do with all species. General Woods stepped forward. Zephyra, how did that work out for the 47 civilizations that are now silent in the dead zones? The alien had no answer to that question. President Baker leaned forward. We're offering you a deal. Lift the quarantine and allow humans to investigate the destroyer threat. If humanity's capacity for warfare truly frightens you, then let us use it to protect the galaxy from something that's actually dangerous. Your species is too violent to be trusted, Zephyra protested, but her voice lacked conviction. More violent than whatever wiped out entire star systems? President Baker asked. Zephyra, your people call us apex killers. Maybe that's exactly what you need right now. The communication ended abruptly, leaving the humans to wait for the Collective's response. For 3 days there was complete silence from the alien fleet. Then Amy's sensors detected movement among the Veltar ships. They're repositioning, Amy reported. Half the fleet is moving toward the dead zone, the other half is... They're backing away from our solar system. Jake felt his heart start beating faster. Are they lifting the quarantine? Before Amy could answer, a new signal came from Zephyra. When her image appeared, she looked like she had aged years in just 3 days. Human leader, Zephyra said. The Collective has spent many cycles debating your proposal. We have also received new information about the destroyer entity. It has begun attacking the outer worlds of the Collective. 3 planets have gone silent in the past cycle. President Baker felt a mix of excitement and dread. What has the Collective decided? We have voted to accept your offer, Zephyra replied. but with conditions. A joint human-Veltar task force will investigate the destroyer threat. Human military advisors will work with collective scientists to develop defense strategies. Most importantly, if humanity betrays our trust, the full might of 1,000 collective worlds will ensure your species never threatens the galaxy again. Admiral Collins stepped forward. What kind of support can the collective provide? Our technology is advanced in ways your species has not yet discovered, Zephyra answered. We can provide faster-than-light travel, energy shields, and manufacturing capabilities beyond your current level. Combined with human tactical knowledge, perhaps we can face this threat. General Woods was already making plans. We'll need to see the destroyer technology, analyze their attack patterns, and understand what we're fighting against. There is one more thing, Zephyra said, and her voice carried a warning tone. The destroyers are not like the peaceful species of the collective. Our few surviving reports suggest they are mechanical beings designed for one purpose: the complete elimination of organic life. They do not communicate, they do not negotiate, and they do not stop. President Baker felt a chill run down her spine.
How many worlds have they destroyed? In the past 50 cycles, we estimate over 300 star systems have fallen silent. The destroyers move methodically from system to system, leaving nothing alive behind them. The weight of the situation
was starting to sink in. Humanity was being asked to fight an enemy that had successfully destroyed hundreds of civilizations, using abilities that terrified their new allies. Madam President, Jake said quietly, are we really ready for this? President Baker looked around the room at her advisors, then back at Zephyra's worried face on the screen. Zephyra, you called humans apex killers and deathbringers. You may be right. But sometimes the galaxy needs killers to fight the things that want to kill everything else. The alien was quiet for a long moment. The collective has reached its decision. Welcome to the galaxy, humans. We pray to our ancestors that we have chosen wisely. As the communication ended, President Baker looked out at the stars, knowing that humanity was about to face the greatest challenge in their history. But for the first time since the quarantine began, she felt hope. The species that was too dangerous for the galaxy might be exactly what the galaxy needed to survive.